Good morning, everyone. Well, I'm going to try to get this in. It has rained literally every day. Do you see how high the water is down there? See, you got grass and then water again. It's coming up over the top of that little bank. Now, we're not in danger of getting flooded out up here. However, I don't need to have my food there. But you might hear some thunder while we're recording, and maybe even some rain. I might have to stop it like last time. There we go. That pole was pulled up over the top of my tent yesterday. Big storm came through, and I didn't have it staked down right. It was my fault. But I fixed it. That's why you test things. That's why when the space program is going at SpaceX, they test everything multiple times to make sure they didn't forget something. I just blame it on a senior moment. Okay, so when Jesus was here, he was giving us an example to follow. He did everything that we did. He's half human to show us that we can make it with the help of the Spirit of God. So when he went away, he sent us the Comforter, the Helper, Holy Ghost, whatever you want to call him. It's the Spirit part of God. Jesus has it. God, of course, has it. It's the Trinity. We don't have Jesus and God down here, but we do have the Helper. And they're co-equal in that Trinity. So we have God with us all the time. So, we don't have any real occurrences where we can see Jesus laughing. But we have some occurrences where he was crying. So it's okay to cry. It's actually okay to laugh too. We're going to kind of cover both of those. And Jesus didn't stay at home, avoid people. If you want to accuse him of anything, and they did, it's hanging out with bad people. He hung out with tax collectors. His first miracle was at a wedding feast. They're not there to be solemn. It's not a funeral. They're there to be happy. Okay, so we're going to take a look at a couple of times where he cried. You just kind of we're looking at God. Imagine God being here on earth, and this is what he would be like. Turn with me to Luke 19:41. Now as he drew near, he saw the city and wept over it. Remember, he's riding in on a donkey, because the Old Testament says that he would be doing that. Saying, if you had known, even you, especially in this your day. He's the Messiah. He's there for the Jews, and they didn't recognize him. Because they stopped teaching the Bible and started teaching the commentaries, and the commentaries missed it. And they didn't have the original text because they were doing commentaries. The Talmud and the Mishnah and the other one, I forget its name, were their primary source of information. So especially in this your day, the things that make for your peace, and they are now hidden from your eyes. God does that. If you reject God, then he turns the key and you don't see God or what he's doing until you accept him again and ask him to be part of your life again. He's a jealous God. If you start worshiping another God, you're going to pay a price for it. Okay, now turn over to John 11:33. Therefore, when Jesus saw her weeping, Martha, we're dealing with Lazarus now, and the Jews who came with her weeping, he groaned in the spirit and was troubled. He knew he was going to raise Lazarus from the dead. That's why he was there. That's why he took his time. It didn't surprise him, but he still wept because he saw the others weeping because they didn't understand. And he said, "Where have you laid him?" Lord, come and see. And then it says in 35, and Jesus wept. Now, he didn't cry all the time. There are people that can cry just like that, and it kind of gets attention drawn to them. There are legitimate reasons for crying. But everything in life doesn't deserve crying, because then you can't function. You've got to be happy sometime during your life. You can't be depressed and crying all your life. Laughter is the best medicine. Okay, so you're allowed to laugh. Some churches don't like it when you laugh. Some churches don't like it when you dance. We have a movie about that called Footloose. I was in the reboot, the second one. It never says that, Jesus laughed in the Bible, but again, he was at events where if he was a stick in the mud, they would have talked about it. Cultures were different back then, and the language was different. There are funny things in the Bible that were written to be funny, and the people that knew the language would have laughed when they read it. We look at it and it's like, and he walked across the room. Yeah. Bad translation. There are psalms that are humorous. There are proverbs that are funny and sarcastical. You lose that in the translation. If you talk to any comedian about going around the world when they travel, they have to tailor their jokes to the audience. I was really surprised to see Jeff Dunham go to Saudi Arabia and take Ahmed. And they laughed at it because he's making fun of somebody who's like them, but dumb. We laugh at people who do dumb things. Sometimes you don't understand the culture. Now, Jesus acted out the full life of God. We've got all the different emotions that you can imagine coming from Jesus. Relaxed in a storm, sleeping in a storm where the people are on the boat are panicking. Patience, dealing with people. Ecclesiastes 3:4, I just covered this not too long ago. A time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to mourn, and a time to dance. And they made a good song out of it, the birds. And as I said, he did his first miracle at a feast, a celebration. And he turned the water into wine that was good wine, not cheap wine. I've mentioned this before. Pretty much everybody, including the kids, drank very diluted wine because the alcohol killed the pathogens. But they had good wine. And they had beer. We got beer from the Egyptians, putting their grain in those big amphoras and then getting a water leak into them and fermenting. That's how they got beer. Why anybody would make beer if they didn't know what it was, but it was an accident. And they liked it. I don't know if you've watched the series, The Chosen. I know it's produced by the Mormon Church, but it's got a committee of good Christians on there that approve what's on there. Now, I haven't seen every episode, but the ones I have seen, Jonathan Romy, who plays Jesus, does a really good job, a believable job of what Jesus would have been like. Now, we don't know. This is acting. This is creating a TV series. We don't know if he'd look like that. We don't have much to go on. It just said that he was average. He wasn't a stunner. I'm not even going to try to compare different actors that are known for their leading roles, but that wasn't him. He was average. He was like the fellow man. He wasn't ugly, but he was average, so that he would relate better. If he was beautiful, everybody would have looked at him and said, well, of course he's having all this luck doing this stuff because he's beautiful to look at. He didn't want that. He's average. Just like we are average on the most part. We've each got our own talents. But if you average out our abilities, we're all pretty much the same. There are exceptions. We've got Mensa for the really bright people. You've got Alcoholics Anonymous for those that are quitters. One of the comedians uses that as a joke. I forget which one. I think that's the Jeff Dunham joke again with his Bubba. Some people have talent. Some people work hard to get where they're at. Find your talent. You don't have to work as hard. Okay. So if we look at the fruits of the Spirit, just look at the first three: love, joy, and peace. If you've got those, you're going to draw people to you. They're going to want to be around you. And that's how you're going to present the gospel. If you're intimidating, if you're hard, if you're a drill instructor, you might get some people, but you're not going to get the majority of the people. You've got to be able to relate to, and they have to relate to you so they understand. You're not talking down to them, you're talking across. Jesus tried to talk across to everybody. For those that were in the boat, we're all in the same boat. If it sinks, everybody's going to die. And it didn't sink. And he calmed the water. But they had to call on him to do that, which is part of the trick here. You've got to be seeking God, and he will help you find him. So Jesus gave us all the reason that we have to follow everything that he did. But we don't have to copy him. We're all unique. But he showed us how to get through situations. We have situations, but there are people that are depressed all the time, depressed to the point where they've got to be on medication. It could be a physical problem. So for those that are like that, I'm not going to say stop taking the medication, but seek God out on that, and he might find a way. My son has a physical problem. We're waiting on his medication. But he's functioning without it, but not fully. And so that's what we're trying to do, is improve that. But we're also praying that God will heal him. You want to cover all aspects. Don't leave God out just because you found a human way of doing something or an earthly way. Include God in every problem. Because he's got solutions that you haven't even thought of yet. I'm hearing the thunder. I think it's to the north. I don't think we're going to get it down here. And it's just the tip that's going to hit us out of this band. But it's already rained today. And there's more behind it. The jet stream is going down into the Gulf and dragging all the water back up to us. So we've got probably another week's worth of this. It's not normal. The guy's tent next door keeps leaking because the water's getting so high, it's going up over the door edge, which is, off the ground. But it's flowing so hard, it's hitting and going up and coming down. It's not physically over it, that we don't have 4 to 6 inches of water, but because of its speed, it's going up. And that's the back of his tent. The front of his tent, where the door isn't getting any water. It's all coming. He's got a slight hill above him. But you put your tent where the tent's designed to go. There are pads when you come out like this. There are trailers here. Our host, the Rangers, has a trailer. He's working on it right now because it was leaking from the storm yesterday. The slide is one of these more modern ones that has a slide, and it can come in that if it's got debris built up in it, even if it's closed. So you have to do maintenance. Anything that's outdoors, you have to do maintenance. I've patched holes in the bottom of this tent where I poked holes in it with my chair before I put my carpet down. I always have carpet underneath my chairs because these aren't designed. Even if this was a regular indoor chair, it still have legs. The table over here that I got the little cushions, the coasters underneath there. I don't have them on this one here yet, but two of the legs are on carpet. So I've got to get some for the backside, but I don't put in a lot of weight on this one here. My laptop is on it, and I keep food and stuff. My coffee cup is on it. That's the last of my coffee for that cup. I have 1 to 2 cups a day. I don't drink it all the time. But it helps. It helps me to get connected to God better by being awake and alert. It's getting crazy. Israel just attacked the Houthis, blew up their oil refinery base in their port. A lot of damage and still on fire. And that's a couple of days ago. Israel has to start doing that. They have to start hitting back hard to discourage those who can just fling missiles anytime they feel like. And the Houthis have been pushing buttons because they launched missiles at Saudi Arabia. They've taken down ships. One of their ships was sunk by a submarine that had arms on it. The world has to fight back against this because they want to own the world. And as long as nobody pushes back, they're going to keep pushing. The Middle East is mentality, it's force. When you have a weak president, which we have now, and when we had during Jimmy Carter, the Middle East becomes a hot spot because they only respect fear. They only fear other countries. Here comes the rain. Israel's still the center of attention, though. All right, it's going to get noisy with the rain, so let me wrap this up. Learn from Jesus. Study him. Read him. You have a red letter Bible, read the red print multiple times. It's repeated 4 times, well, 3 times in the Gospels, but there's quotes throughout the New Testament. Jesus said, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. Learn from him until we meet in the clouds. God bless. Well, here come the kids. That one lone goose there is the one that has the broken wing. She's here all the time. Look how high up the water is. Now, it's hard to see elevation here, but we're probably 6 to 8 feet higher than that down there, so it would really flood the whole valley if we got water up that high. But over there, it's all inland over there. But the tent site, you can see, is up on that little knoll, so it's okay. But it's got a lot of water in here. My tent poles. You put it there in the ground, you stake it down, and I got my little lights on it. And you can hear the thunder.